In the far reaches of the galaxy, humanity had long been considered a relatively insignificant species. The alien races, far older and more advanced, looked upon Earth with a mixture of amusement and disdain. Humanity had just begun to venture beyond their home planet, exploring nearby planets and moons within their solar system. Yet, despite their technological progress, they were still seen as a young, fragile species, unworthy of attention from the galaxy's true power players. This all changed when the humans made their first contact. It wasn't a peaceful arrival, nor was it the kind of meeting humans had dreamed of for decades. Instead, a massive warship, unlike anything the human race had ever encountered, dropped out of a rift in space and entered Earth's orbit. The ship was a hulking behemoth, bristling with weapons, and its hull was adorned with the insignia of the Star, the galaxy's most feared and brutal species. The Star were known for their brutal conquests and their ruthless nature. They had subjugated countless planets and enslaved civilizations. Their technological might was legendary, and their warlords were renowned for their unrelenting cruelty. For humanity, this was the first real test of survival on the galactic stage. The Star had come, and they were not here to make allies. The first message from the Star warship was simple and chilling. Surrender your planet to us, and we will show mercy. Resist, and we will annihilate you. In the face of overwhelming power, Earth's leaders held a summit. Fear gripped the hearts of humanity. The Star were a terror to the galaxy, and humans had no way of combating their superior technology. Despite their technological progress, humanity was still decades away from even attempting to challenge such a formidable foe. Yet, in this darkest hour, something unexpected happened. A young scientist from the European Union, Dr. Alana Rios, proposed an unorthodox plan. The plan was born from a theory she had been researching on the side, an idea that, if perfected, could give humans a fighting chance. She had been studying the Star's energy patterns, their communication signals, and their warship's behavior. She believed that, through a combination of human ingenuity, an old Earth technique called psychological warfare, and the right technological upgrades, humanity could turn the tables. She argued that, rather than outright fighting the Star, humanity should exploit their own arrogance. The leaders of Earth were skeptical. The Star were known for their ruthlessness, and no one thought humans could survive a conflict with them, let alone outsmart them. Yet, with few other options and no time to prepare for a prolonged battle, they reluctantly agreed to Dr. Rios's strategy. They would gamble everything on a plan that seemed like madness. The first stage of the plan involved creating a massive, coordinated network of human ships scattered across the solar system. Each ship was equipped with a powerful, experimental energy weapon designed to make a small but significant impact on star systems. But it wasn't the weapons that would win the war. It was the timing and deception that would make the difference. Dr. Rios had deduced that the Star believed the humans to be incapable of strategic thought. They believed humanity's impulse-driven culture was their biggest weakness. So, humanity's strategy was simple: send a series of unexpected and seemingly disorganized attacks, each one targeting different parts of the Star fleet. This would confuse the Star, making them question humanity's true capabilities. Meanwhile, the humans would exploit every weakness in the Star's command structure, using clever misdirection and manipulation to sow discord among their ranks. The initial skirmishes were devastating. The humans had no hope of outmatching the Star technologically, but they were relentless in their unpredictability. They hit where they were least expected, striking vital systems with precision. The Star, for all their power, could not fathom a species that fought with such unyielding resourcefulness. Human ships were destroyed, and yet the humans didn't falter. They fought with everything they had, driven by desperation and determination. The Star commanders began to doubt their own strategy. What they thought was a simple victory march had turned into a bloody, chaotic struggle. They underestimated the humans' resilience and ingenuity, and that was their fatal mistake. In the coming days, the humans would rally their forces, using every trick in the book, and something even more unexpected was brewing, something that would change the entire course of galactic history. Despite their initial failures, humanity's tenacity became a symbol to the other races in the galaxy. And soon, whispers began to spread throughout the galaxy about the species that had dared to challenge the star. But even as the tides of war began to shift, the star were not a species to be underestimated. The humans' victory was far from assured, and the coming battles would test their resolve like never before. In the depths of space, the fight for Earth had just begun. As the war with the star continued to escalate, the human resistance began to gain momentum, though victory seemed elusive. Despite their ingenuity, humanity's fleet was still vastly outmatched by the sheer power of the star war machines. Each victory, no matter how small, was achieved through resourcefulness and sheer grit. But the humans knew they couldn't continue this war on borrowed time. They needed something more, something that could change the tide in their favor. Dr. Alana Rios, still at the forefront of humanity's strategic planning, understood that the next phase of their resistance could not rely on just trickery and guerrilla tactics. The humans needed to develop a weapon of their own, one capable of striking fear into the hearts of the star, a weapon that would level the playing field. Rios believed that the key lay in understanding the star's own technological secrets. The star were known to use a mysterious energy source for their ships and weaponry, one that no one outside their species had been able to replicate or fully understand. It was a complex fusion of ancient energy manipulation techniques and advanced quantum mechanics, but Dr. Rios theorized that with the right resources, humanity could reverse engineer the star's technology. In a covert operation, Rios led a small team of engineers and scientists to capture a disabled starship that had drifted near the outer edge of the solar system. The ship, badly damaged in an earlier skirmish, was thought to be a lost cause by the star, an oversight the humans quickly capitalized on. As the crew boarded the derelict vessel, they marveled at the advanced technologies within, many of which were still beyond humanity's understanding. It was a monumental task, but Rios and her team knew they had no choice but to succeed. For weeks, they dissected the ship, carefully analyzing the alien systems and their internal workings. At first, the task seemed insurmountable. The star energy core was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Its intricate mechanisms and alien materials presented a barrier that seemed impossible to breach. But Rios refused to give up. She knew that even one breakthrough could change everything. Then, a breakthrough came, a moment of pure, accidental inspiration. During an experiment, Rios inadvertently triggered a small burst of energy from the core. The burst wasn't powerful enough to cause any significant damage, but it sparked a realization. The star's energy manipulation was based on resonance, frequencies that could be disrupted by specific electromagnetic pulses. Rios knew what she had to do. The humans would develop a weapon not based on brute force, but on precision, a resonance disruptor capable of interfering with the star's energy manipulation at a molecular level. This weapon would be able to disable starships by essentially scrambling their energy systems, rendering their advanced technology useless. The task was not simple, though. The device had to be both powerful and precise, capable of neutralizing the star energy cores without triggering a catastrophic meltdown. And even if they succeeded in building such a weapon, the real challenge would come in deploying it. The star would undoubtedly anticipate any such move, and they would be prepared to retaliate with overwhelming force. Still, humanity's resolve remained unshaken. A prototype for the resonance disruptor was quickly constructed, using salvaged star technology and human ingenuity. The first test of the device was conducted on a small scale, targeting a decoy star warship stationed on the outer edge of the solar system. When the device was activated, the results were immediate and dramatic. The star warship's energy shield flickered, then failed entirely, leaving the ship defenseless. The prototype worked. Now humanity had a fighting chance. But Rios knew the star would not be fooled twice. In order to deploy the resonance disruptors effectively, they would need to strike at the heart of the Star War effort, at their central command ship, the star flagship Erebos, a colossal vessel that had remained out of reach for all but the bravest human forces. As humanity prepared for its most daring mission yet, they also faced a new dilemma. With the resonance disruptors now a proven weapon, the question became, how much of their soul would they sacrifice in order to secure their future? The use of such a weapon, if successful, could cripple the star permanently, but it might also cause irreversible damage to the delicate balance of the galaxy's ecosystem. Would humanity become the very thing they feared, the tyrants of the stars, wielding power unchecked? The answer was unclear, but for now, survival was the only priority. In the heart of Earth's fleet, the first whispers of a bold new strategy began to circulate, an all-out assault on the Erebos, the most formidable star vessel in existence. It was a long shot, a gamble with everything on the line, but for the first time since the war began, humanity could feel a flicker of hope. The battle for the galaxy had only just begun. The humans knew that time was running out. Every day, the star pressed closer to Earth, their warships orbiting the planet with an ominous presence. The star were relentless, but so were the humans. The resonance disruptor had given them a glimmer of hope, but now it was time to act. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested on a single, high-risk mission, an assault on the star flagship, Erebos. Dr. Alana Rios, who had become a symbol of human resilience, was chosen to lead the mission. Her understanding of the star's technology, combined with her strategic brilliance, made her the ideal candidate. But she was not alone. Humanity's best pilots, engineers, and soldiers rallied around her, all willing to risk everything for the chance to end the war once and for all. The mission was simple in theory, but incredibly complex in execution. They had to infiltrate star space, bypass their most heavily fortified defenses, and plant the resonance disruptors on the Erebos, all without alerting the star to their presence. If they failed, it would not just be the end of the mission, but the end of Earth itself. In the weeks leading up to the assault, Earth's fleet was readied for war. Ships were outfitted with the new resonance disruptors, and the pilots trained for every contingency. But as the day of the mission approached, uncertainty gnawed at everyone. The star flagship was a fortress in space, and the chances of success were slim. Yet, every person involved knew what was at stake. This was not just a mission to survive, it was a mission to reclaim the future. The humans took a calculated risk. They used a decoy strategy to divert the star's attention, creating a series of fake attacks on other parts of the fleet. It worked to some extent, drawing a portion of the star forces away from their central command. This allowed the human ships to slip past their outer defenses unnoticed, entering the heart of star space undetected. Dr. Rios commanded a small strike force, a handful of ships, each equipped with the latest human tech and the critical disruptors. They had to move quickly and with precision. The plan was to get close to the Erebos, infiltrate its systems, and disable its energy shields long enough to plant the disruptors. Time was their enemy. The longer they stayed in star space, the more likely they would be detected. And once the star realized what was happening, they would unleash their full might against the human fleet. The journey to the Erebos was a perilous one. As the human ships neared the star stronghold, the tension was palpable. The stars around them seemed to dim, as if the universe itself held its breath. The fleet had to navigate through asteroid fields, gravitational anomalies, and a variety of deadly space traps set by the star. Every moment felt like a countdown to disaster. Finally, they arrived at the Erebos, a vessel so enormous that it seemed to consume the very fabric of space itself. The ship was surrounded by an impenetrable energy field, and its weapon systems were primed, ready to obliterate any threat. This was where humanity's greatest test would unfold. Dr. Rios gave the order, and the human fleet began its final approach. They had one shot at this. The decoy tactics had worked, but now the clock was ticking. As they neared the Erebos, the star's sensors detected an anomaly. Too late. The human ships had already entered the fringes of the flagship's defensive perimeter. They were close, but not yet inside. In a coordinated effort, the human fleet initiated a full-spectrum electromagnetic pulse, disabling the star's external sensors for a critical few moments. It wasn't enough to take down the flagship's defenses. but it was enough to give the strike force a brief window. Dr. Rios and her team launched their stealth fighters and made their way toward the flagship's hull. The Erebos was a fortress, but even the most secure fortresses had weak points. Rios had studied the flagship's design, and she had found a small, nearly imperceptible venting system that led directly into its power core. It was risky, but it was their only option. They had to get inside. The strike team infiltrated the Erebos, slipping through the ship's corridors like shadows. They knew the star would be searching for them within minutes, and the clock was ticking. Their task was clear: disable the star flagship's core systems and plant the resonance disruptors at key points along the ship's energy grid. As they moved deeper into the heart of the Erebos, the tension was unbearable. Every step felt like a countdown to death. They encountered resistance from star soldiers, brutal, merciless warriors who had no hesitation in exterminating any intruders. The humans fought back with everything they had, using their knowledge of star tactics against them. The battle was brutal, but the strike team pressed forward. In the depths of the Erebos, Dr. Rios and her team reached the power core. The resonance disruptors were carefully placed at key energy nodes, and the countdown began. They had just moments to get out before the devices activated. With the star forces closing in, the team raced against time. The Erebos was about to experience a cataclysmic shift. The disruptors would destabilize the entire ship's energy network, leaving the star flagship powerless. But as they prepared to escape, disaster struck. One of the disruptors malfunctioned, triggering an explosion in the lower levels of the ship. The strike team was forced into a deadly retreat as the Erebos began to shake with violent tremors. The humans were on the verge of being wiped out, but there was still a glimmer of hope. They had planted the disruptors. Now, they had to survive long enough to see the plan through. As the Erebos continued to shake, Dr. Rios knew that the true battle for humanity's future was just beginning. The Erebos trembled violently as the resonance disruptors began to activate. The human strike team had managed to plant the devices, but the ship's instability was growing by the second. Time was running out. Dr. Alana Rios and her team, now deep inside the heart of the star flagship, were racing against the clock to escape the catastrophic fallout of their actions. With each passing moment, the Erebos was becoming more unstable, its systems beginning to collapse under the strain of the disruptor pulses. The star were no fools. Even before the human sabotage, they had detected the breach in their energy systems. Sirens blared throughout the flagship as alarms echoed across the massive ship. A voice boomed over the intercom, warning the star forces of the infiltration. It was a battle cry, a rallying call to all remaining troops to find and eliminate the intruders. The enemy was closing in fast, and the escape route was growing more treacherous with every passing second. "Move, move, move," Dr. Rios shouted, urging her team to pick up the pace as they navigated the narrow corridors of the Erebos. The ship's hulls had once felt like a daunting maze of alien architecture, but now they seemed to close in on them, as though the Erebos itself was tightening its grip, unwilling to let the humans leave. But escape was not the only concern. The disruptors were working. Sparks of energy surged through the Erebos, lighting up the ship's vast interior like veins of lightning. Massive energy surges cascaded across the walls, causing panels to explode and rippling across the flagship's power grid. The resonance disruptors had destabilized the star's energy cores, creating a chain reaction that, if left unchecked, would obliterate the flagship. In the chaos, Rios and her team encountered star soldiers, and the battle turned brutal. The star were formidable warriors, towering figures clad in thick exoskeleton armor. They wielded devastating plasma weapons that could disintegrate anything in their path. The humans, though vastly outmatched in terms of physical strength and weaponry, fought with an unyielding resolve. They knew that their lives were on the line, not just their own, but the future of their species. Despite the intense resistance, the humans pressed on. Each of them fought with a singular purpose: survive and complete the mission. Rios, at the forefront of the team, was a beacon of determination. She knew that if they could just make it to the escape route, the small shuttle they had hidden in the lower decks, they would have a chance. They had only one shot at getting out. The star forces were closing in, and the situation was growing increasingly dire. The escape shuttle was on the other side of the ship, and there was no time for subtlety anymore. Rios gave the order to fight their way through, and the team cut a bloody path through the star ranks. Explosions rocked the hallways, and the air was thick with the sound of gunfire and the cries of the wounded. "We're almost there," Rios shouted over the comms, her voice strained but determined. The escape shuttle was just ahead. But as they rounded the corner, they were met with an unexpected sight. A group of star soldiers had barricaded themselves at the shuttle's entrance, preparing to launch a final, desperate stand. Rios and her team were outnumbered, but they had no choice. They fought back with everything they had, using the narrow corridors to their advantage. The star were formidable, but their arrogance had blinded them. They underestimated the human drive to survive, and that would be their undoing. In a final push, Rios and her team fought their way to the shuttle, pushing the last of the star soldiers aside. The shuttle door slid open, and they piled inside, their bodies battered and bloodied, but their spirits unbroken. The shuttle's engines roared to life, and the team made a desperate jump to hyperspace, narrowly avoiding the catastrophic explosion that tore through the Erebos. As they flew toward the safety of the outer rim, the Erebos erupted in a massive explosion, its energy cores collapsing in on themselves. The shockwaves sent a ripple through space, lighting up the void like a supernova. The star flagship, the symbol of their dominance, was no more. But despite the victory, the humans couldn't afford to relax. The star fleet, though crippled, was still a formidable force. The explosion of the Erebos would not go unanswered. And the war was far from over. Humanity had dealt a decisive blow, but there were still many battles to fight. Dr. Rios stared out the shuttle's viewport, watching the debris of the Erebos fade into the distance. The humans had won a battle, but the war was far from over. They had destroyed the star flagship, but the enemy was still out there, waiting to retaliate. The road ahead would be long and perilous, but the humans had proven something to the galaxy that day. They had proven that they were not a species to be underestimated. In the wake of the Erebos' destruction, humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. They would fight, not just for survival, but for a future where they could thrive. And as they turned their eyes toward the horizon, they knew one thing above all else. They had just begun to fight. The galaxy would never be the same again. The destruction of the Erebos sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The star, known for their ruthlessness and unrivaled technological superiority, had been dealt a crippling blow. Humanity, once seen as an insignificant species on the fringe of galactic affairs, had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. Yet, despite the victory, there was no time to celebrate. The star would not take this humiliation lying down. A counterattack was inevitable, and the humans knew that they had to prepare for the storm that was sure to follow. In the wake of the Erebos' destruction, Earth's leaders called for an emergency summit. The question on everyone's mind was simple. What would the star do next? Rios and her team, along with the surviving commanders, were brought into the heart of the decision-making process. With the flagship destroyed, the star were left without their central command, but the warlords who ruled their factions were not easily subdued. The star would regroup, reorganize, and strike back with vengeance. "We've shaken them," Dr. Rios said, her voice calm but tinged with the weight of the situation. "But make no mistake, we've only just started a fire in the star hive. They're wounded, yes, but they're not broken. They'll come after us with everything they've got. We need to stay ahead of them." Her words echoed through the war room, a sobering reminder that while the humans had gained a significant advantage, the star were not a species that would yield easily. Earth's leaders had to decide whether to play defensively and consolidate their newfound power, or to go on the offensive and strike at the heart of the Star Empire before they could regroup. The decision was made. Humanity would push forward, not just to defend Earth, but to continue the fight across the galaxy. The humans had one key advantage: their resilience. They had proven to the galaxy that they were unpredictable, cunning, and capable of adapting in ways that the star had never anticipated. A new strategy was devised. The humans would target star strongholds in key sectors, cutting off their reinforcements and diminishing their power base. Dr. Rios, now seen as one of the galaxy's foremost tactical minds, was put in charge of leading a series of devastating raids. Her plan was simple: dismantle the Star Empire piece by piece. Every victory would weaken them, and with each victory, more alien species would take notice. But the Star were not without resources. Despite the loss of their flagship, their warlords still commanded vast fleets, and they were well-versed in guerrilla tactics. The humans had proven they could fight, but could they keep up the pressure? The first major operation took place on the star-controlled world of Kael'Zor, a planet known for its rich mineral resources. The Star used Kael'Zor as a key logistical hub, and taking it would cripple their ability to supply their forces. It was a heavily fortified world, surrounded by a powerful defense fleet. The human fleet was far smaller, but they had learned valuable lessons from their previous encounters with the Star. In a daring raid, Rios and her fleet struck at Kael'Zor's weak points. They used stealth technology to infiltrate the planet's orbit and hit the Star supply lines with precision. Human ships, equipped with advanced resonance disruptors, neutralized key defense systems, allowing ground forces to land and cripple the Star's military infrastructure. It was a calculated risk, a smaller fleet attacking a fortified position, but it worked. As the battle raged on the surface, the humans began to sense a shift in the air. The Star, realizing that their empire was slowly being chipped away, resorted to a more desperate strategy. They began deploying a new weapon, something even more deadly than their previous technology: the Void Crusher. This massive, planet-destroying weapon could siphon energy from a star, creating an unstable singularity capable of annihilating entire worlds. The Star's new weapon was a game-changer. If fully operational, it could wipe out entire colonies and force the humans to retreat. It was a desperate attempt to turn the tide of the war, a final move by the Star to restore their dominance. Earth's leadership knew they had to act quickly to prevent the Void Crusher from becoming operational. The stakes were higher than ever. Dr. Rios, ever the strategist, had already devised a plan to sabotage the Void Crusher before it could be deployed. The human fleet would have to infiltrate a heavily defended Star research facility on the planet Vorik, where the Void Crusher was being assembled. The operation would be incredibly risky, as the Star were already aware of the human raids and had fortified Vorik to the extreme. But the humans were not afraid. They had fought against overwhelming odds before, and they would do so again. The plan was set in motion. A small task force of human special operatives, backed by a fleet of stealth ships, would penetrate the Star defenses and sabotage the Void Crusher before it could reach completion. It was a mission that required pinpoint precision, and the clock was ticking. The team was made up of humanity's finest warriors, scientists, and engineers, each chosen for their unique skills. Among them was Captain James Carrick, a veteran of the Erebos assault, whose expertise in close-quarters combat and infiltration was unparalleled. Alongside him was Dr. Liam Walker, a brilliant engineer who had helped design the resonance disruptors. Together, they would have to breach the Star's heavily fortified facility, destroy the Void Crusher, and escape without being caught. The operation was set to begin under the cover of darkness. Human forces would drop onto the surface of Vorik, bypassing Star radar and using their advanced cloaking technology to remain undetected. They would infiltrate the facility and plant explosives at the heart of the Void Crusher's energy grid. If they succeeded, they would deal the Star blow from which they might never recover. But as always, things rarely went according to plan. The Star had learned from their previous failures. They were ready. The humans would soon face their greatest challenge yet. As the battle for Vorik began, it became clear that the tide was turning. Would humanity be able to strike a final blow against the Star, or would the galaxy once again feel the crushing weight of their might? Only time would tell. The planet Vorik loomed ahead, its surface covered in jagged mountains and sprawling deserts. The Star Research Facility, nestled in a remote valley, was surrounded by a maze of automated defenses and guarded by elite Star warriors. Humanity's task was to infiltrate this heavily fortified stronghold, sabotage the Void Crusher, and escape without alerting the star to their presence. It was a mission that required precision, stealth, and above all, speed. Any delay could mean disaster. Dr. Rios and her team stood in the briefing room aboard the human flagship, indomitable, eyes fixed on the holographic map of Vorak. The stakes were higher than ever. If the star activated the Void Crusher, they would have the power to destroy entire human colonies in an instant. The consequences of failure were unimaginable. "All right," Rios said, her voice calm but intense. "This is our chance to end this. We hit them fast, hard, and without hesitation. Once the Void Crusher is offline, we get out, no heroics, no second chances. We're doing this for humanity." Her team nodded in unison, each member ready for what lay ahead. Among them was Captain James Carrick, the grizzled veteran who had led the assault on the Erebos, and Dr. Liam Walker, the brilliant engineer whose expertise in sabotage would prove crucial. Together, they had become a symbol of humanity's resolve, their bond forged through countless battles and shared dangers. The mission began under the cover of darkness. The human fleet, cloaked by stealth technology, entered Vorak's atmosphere undetected. The team descended to the surface, their ships touching down in a secluded valley far from star patrols. They would need to move quickly and quietly through the desert terrain, avoiding detection at all costs. The first few hours were eerily quiet. The humans made their way through the desolate landscape, relying on their training and advanced equipment to stay hidden from the star's sophisticated surveillance systems. The shadows stretched long as they approached the research facility, its towering structure looming like a fortress against the barren land. Then, as they neared the facility's outer perimeter, disaster struck. A group of Star Patrol ships, sensing an anomaly in their sensor readings, flew overhead. The humans froze, hidden among the rocky outcrops, barely breathing. The Star ships passed overhead, but the humans knew they were running out of time. The Star had already increased their vigilance, and it wouldn't be long before the entire facility was on high alert. "Move out," Rios whispered, her voice barely audible over the comms. "We have to get to the core before they notice anything." The team advanced, making their way through the facility's outer defenses. They used cloaking devices to bypass sensor arrays and disable perimeter turrets. Despite their best efforts, the Star were always one step ahead, their reactions increasingly swift. The humans encountered multiple patrols, each more difficult to avoid than the last. The Star were no longer just guarding the facility, they were hunting for intruders. Rios's team reached the inner sanctum of the research facility. The Void Crusher was housed in a vast chamber at the heart of the building, surrounded by a complex web of security measures. The device itself was monstrous, an immense construct that hummed with dark energy, its massive core feeding off the planet's resources to build the deadly Singularity weapon. "Dr. Walker, the countdown begins now," Rios said, her voice firm. "We need to shut it down. Fast." Walker, his face tense with concentration, moved swiftly to the console. His fingers flew over the controls, hacking into the facility's mainframe with precision. The Void Crusher systems were incredibly complex, a twisted blend of Star and alien technology, but Walker had studied their designs. He knew how to exploit their weaknesses. "We've got company," Captain Carrick growled, his voice coming through the comms. "And they're not far." Star soldiers appeared at the far end of the chamber, moving swiftly toward the humans. The strike team opened fire, but the Star were well-armored, their advanced energy shields absorbing most of the damage. The humans needed more than just firepower, they needed time. "We're almost there," Walker called, sweat dripping from his brow as he worked feverishly. "I've bypassed the first set of security locks. Just a little longer." The Star advanced, firing relentlessly. The humans returned fire, using every weapon at their disposal, plasma rifles, grenades, and their wits. But the Star were not easily defeated. The ground shook as the Void Crusher's core hummed louder, its energy intensifying. The humans could feel the pressure building, the air crackling with energy. "Almost done," Walker shouted. "I've disabled the primary power grid. The Void Crusher won't function now." But we've got to get out of here, now. Just as the last security lock was deactivated, an explosion shook the chamber. The star had breached the facility's lower levels, and the humans had no choice but to make their escape. "We've got seconds," Carrick yelled, pushing Walker toward the exit. "Move, Rios, move." The humans sprinted toward their extraction point, the air thick with smoke and debris. Star soldiers gave chase, but they were too late. The humans had already activated their emergency teleporters, a last-resort escape mechanism. One by one, Rios and her team vanished from the research facility, leaving the Star soldiers in a stunned silence. They had succeeded. The Void Crusher, the weapon that could have turned the tide of the war, was now offline. But as they rematerialized on their ship, indomitable, a sense of dread filled the air. The mission had been a success, but the price of their victory was high. The Star would not forgive them for this humiliation. In fact, they would retaliate, an eye for an eye. "We've just put ourselves on the map," Rios said quietly, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. "And the Star are coming for us." Humanity had struck another decisive blow, but the war was far from over. The real battle had just begun. As the fleet turned toward their next objective, a dark thought lingered in Rios's mind. No matter how many victories they had, the Star would keep coming. And sooner or later, the humans would have to face them in a final, cataclysmic clash. Would humanity rise to the occasion, or would they be crushed beneath the weight of Star fury? The answer was still unknown, but Rios knew one thing for certain: humanity would fight until the last breath. The war had raged on for years. Humanity, once a fledgling species, had now become a beacon of defiance against the Star, who had underestimated them at every turn. The destruction of the Erebos, the sabotage of the Void Crusher, and the countless victories on various worlds had changed the balance of power. But the Star had not forgotten their humiliation. They had licked their wounds and regrouped, and now they were preparing for one final assault, the kind that would decide the fate of the galaxy. In the heart of human space, a massive fleet assembled. The Indomitable and its sister ships, now upgraded and reinforced with alien technology and the hard-won lessons of the war, were ready to face the Star head-on. Dr. Alana Rios, Captain James Carrick, and Dr. Liam Walker stood once more on the command deck of the flagship, preparing for the greatest battle humanity would ever face. "We've come a long way, but this is it," Carrick said, his voice rough with the weight of what was to come. "The Star are gathering their forces at Korak, their homeworld. We're hitting them with everything we've got." Rios nodded, her face set in a grim mask. "This is our last chance to end this. If we don't take down their command, they'll come for Earth and every other human colony. We can't let that happen." Dr. Walker, ever the engineer, had a different perspective. "It's not just about our survival anymore. It's about our future. We need to show the galaxy that humanity is not a species to be trampled over. We fight for everyone who's ever been oppressed by the Star, for every species they've enslaved. We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for the entire galaxy." With their mission clear, humanity's fleet entered the Korak system. The final battle would be fought at the Star homeworld, a planet known for its harsh, toxic atmosphere and its impregnable defenses. Korak was surrounded by a series of orbital stations, advanced minefields, and multiple layers of Star warships, all armed with the latest weapons humanity had yet to encounter. But what the Star did not expect was the audacity and unity of the human force. No longer a collection of disparate factions, the humans had formed a unified front, bringing together resources, technology, and ingenuity from across the galaxy. Earth had become the rallying point for an alliance of species, free peoples who had suffered under the Star's reign. Humans weren't just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting for the very soul of the galaxy. The battle began with a massive clash in the outer regions of Korak's orbit. Star warships, massive and powerful, surrounded the human fleet, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. But humanity was prepared. Using their superior tactics and knowledge of Star technology, they launched an assault designed to tear through the enemy's defenses. A fleet of human ships, equipped with resonance disruptors and energy siphons, dove into the fray, attacking from unexpected angles and overwhelming the star forces. As the battle raged, Rios, Carrick, and Walker knew that the true objective was not the ships. They had to get to Quark's surface and neutralize the Star Command. If they could take out the heart of the Star leadership, the entire war could be won. The Star would lose their strategic command, and their will to fight. The humans deployed strike teams to the planet's surface, each unit tasked with infiltrating key Star military strongholds. Rios led the charge, her team descending through the toxic clouds and harsh winds to reach the Star Command Center hidden beneath the surface. It was an underground fortress, surrounded by miles of labyrinthine tunnels, guarded by the fiercest warriors the Star had to offer. Inside the command center, Star warlords gathered, preparing to launch their final retaliation. Rios's team fought their way through the dark, narrow halls, using every weapon at their disposal. The Star knew they were coming, and the battle was brutal. But each step they took brought them closer to the heart of the enemy. Meanwhile, the space battle raged above them. The human fleet, though outnumbered, was relentless. The Star Fleet's once imposing presence was being shattered, piece by piece. The humans' use of advanced tactics and their new weapon systems, derived from their victories and alliances with other alien species, began to turn the tide. Star warships fell one by one as human fighters swarmed the battlefield, disabling enemy ships with pinpoint accuracy. Back on the surface of Korak, Rios's team reached the central command chamber. But the Star weren't going to make this easy. The warlords unleashed their final weapon, a massive, genetically enhanced star behemoth, a creature of terrifying size and strength, designed for one purpose: to eliminate humanity's greatest threat. Carrick, always the strategist, knew that the only way to stop the behemoth was to use the environment to their advantage. The humans fought with everything they had, using the terrain, explosives, and sheer determination. The behemoth was strong, but it was not invincible. With a final coordinated attack, the human team brought down the creature, just as Rios reached the Star Warlord's command console. With a single shot, she disabled the central command hub, sending a surge of electrical energy throughout the facility. The Star Fleet in orbit began to falter. Their command center was no longer functioning. With their leadership crippled, the Star forces scattered, disorganized, and vulnerable. The human fleet swooped in, finishing the job. Korak fell silent. The humans had done it. The Star Empire had been toppled, their leadership obliterated. The galaxy had been saved from the threat that had loomed over it for centuries. And in the aftermath, as humanity looked toward a future free of oppression, the galaxy began to heal. But Rios, Carrick, and Walker knew that this was just the beginning. The war had been won, but the road ahead would require rebuilding, diplomacy, and the forging of new alliances. The Star would always be remembered as a threat, but their defeat had proven something even more important. Humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. As the human fleet left Korak behind, Rios stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was theirs now, but they would never forget the price they had paid for it. "We've earned our place," she said, her voice resolute. "And we'll keep fighting, not just for our survival, but for a future where no one has to live in fear again." The battle for the galaxy was over. But the story of humanity's rise from the ashes was only just beginning. And as long as they stood united, there was no force in the galaxy that could ever defeat them again.